DroneDeploy is building a reality capture platform for construction and industrial businesses, including folks in the energy sector. And we also serve agriculture. So we're sort of a horizontal business that serves a lot of different communities, with the vast majority of our um, business living in the construction and energy space.
Is the VC money the best way to grow a business in construction?
It might be, depending on your business. It might not be. And one really, I think, interesting learning for me that I would love to share with your audience here is there are other options. There's amazing VCs out there.
What's your way to get into these hidden VCs, which are who are great but difficult to access? Like what's your tips here?
I don't want to lie to the audience and say there's some amazing tip. We went through this process and worked our buns off trying to, network and meet people. And ultimately, the only tip I could give you is the only thing that worked for us was getting into an accelerator.
In the era of AI and more automation, is construction software going to be cheaper or more expensive?
Is construction software going to be cheaper or more expensive? Gosh, I have no idea how to answer that question.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Bricks Bytes podcast, where we dive into construction and AEC technology. Before we get started though, if you're a startup founder or operator responsible for innovation in your company, or you want a deeper, more insightful look into technology in AEC, you won't want to miss our newsletter. From deep dives into particular technologies such as AI, robotics, design, software, and so on. Hot takes from investors betting big in AEC technology, and advice on building tech companies, including the stories and takeaways of the most successful AEC technology founders. Head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today to get this exclusive material straight to your inbox. And now for the episode. I recently came across this company 4M Analytics, and after taking some time to understand what they do, it felt like the kind of company that ticks all the boxes of great technology in the AEC and public infrastructure space, such as simple technology with instant value and outcomes, a great founding team, a strong reputation across the industry based on conversations we've had with other stakeholders. If you've ever tried putting together utility records, you'll know how painful it is. Outdated PDFs and unreliable conflicting information from 10 different sources. It's slow, messy, and risky. 4M flips that on its head. It's basically Google Maps for above and below ground utilities. You punch in a location and boom, you get reliable utility data you can trust and verify in one easy to use platform. AI does the heavy lifting, but it's backed by real human verification. Big players like Mastech, Kimley Horn, TX. C. and utility owners are already using it to cut down weeks of back and forth, speed up planning, and reduce risk early on so they can build better together. If you're working on infrastructure projects or projects which require super fast, detailed utility records, I would highly recommend checking out 4manalytics.com.
Hey Matt, happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July to you. I know you're not celebrating. Martin, where are you?
I'm in central London.
Okay. So
yeah.
I know we're not celebrating this in London,
Not.
but over in the US, we are celebrating 4th of July. Yeah, happy 4th of July to you.
Yeah, you beautiful scenery. I'm sorry that I took you off the holidays for this interview.
Happy to chat. Sometimes these days are the best for doing that stuff like this.
That's right. We can properly focus then. Okay, so Matt, so you are Chief Marketing Officer of DroneDeploy. Tell us a little bit about your role and what does DroneDeploy do?
Yeah, I run the marketing team here at DroneDeploy. We are, I don't know, a sizable team of a little bit less than 20. And yeah, what does DroneDeploy do? DroneDeploy is building a reality capture platform for construction and industrial businesses, including folks in the energy sector. And we also serve agriculture. So we're sort of a horizontal business that serves a lot of different communities, with the vast majority of our business living in the construction and energy space. And what we're doing is making robotics and AI software is the simplest way I describe it now. That is there to support capturing and understanding what's happening on your site.
robotics and AI software. By robotics, are we talking simply drones, or there's something beyond the drone concept?
All of the above. I think another like very little known thing about DroneDeploy is we acquired a robotics company called Rocos out of New Zealand. I want to say it was a
Wow.
year before, so maybe 2021. And so have an entire platform just simply focused on deploying and using robots to capture very specific things around sites. We see a lot more traction on the ground robot side and the industrial sector today, so oil and gas, energy, mining. Um,
Uh-huh.
and I think it's just a matter of time before we see the right form factor and price to really bring that to the construction world. But yeah, so robotics. But I do also include when I think of robotics, I think of aerial robots too. Like a docked drone
Hmm.
is a robot. It pops out of a box. You give it a schedule, you give it a mission, you send that thing on a mission to go capture data. You tell it what data you want. It comes back. It uploads the data. Um, it's probably the best example I can see in the construction world today of a fully autonomous robot that does what we all want, which is automatically capture the data, bring something back, upload it, and not require a human to go do that.
We would love that. Yeah. What part of I guess I can ask revenue is construction itself. Like, what's part of operations are you focusing on construction? You said oil and gas, mining, agriculture. Yeah, how much are you doing in construction?
It's about half. It's about half, and then half everything else. And and that's a mix of
Mm,
oil and gas, solar, um, agriculture. There's so many. There's a huge bucket of other that has lots of different, very interesting industries inside of it that we
mm-hmm,
support.
mm-hmm. Okay, and so you previously were a co-founder of Struction Site, which merged with DroneDeploy. Um, I would say, when was it? 2 years ago,
2022.
2022, so 3 years ago. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What was the reason? What did you see at that time that it made sense?
Yeah, it's interesting. We had started talking to the drone deploy team back before our Series A. So this was in 2000 fall, like winter of 2019.
Hmm.
And they had just raised around, and I think what was happening is we just had lots of shared customers, and our customers, their customers were saying, "Hey, like, do you guys see what they're doing over there? You should take a look at that because uh, we ultimately don't want to have like 10 reality capture apps. Like, are you guys going to do 360 photos?" And they were saying similar things to us, which is like, are you guys going to build a drone software? Because, man, if you guys could just build a drone software, it would be really great if you could do that because we don't want to have so many apps. But it was still early enough that that just did not make sense. And we said, hey, like, great to know you guys. But we stayed in touch. And 2 years later, I think what I had is the benefit of 2 years of asking people the question, how many reality capture apps are you using today? And they
Hmm.
would think about that for a minute and say some number. And I would say, how many do you want to be using in the future? And they would be like, one or two. And the answer was, and now the light bulb would even go off for them and be like, wow, yeah, we are using a ton of different software in this space. And so for me, the hypothesis was there has to be consolidation in this space. When that happens, I don't want to be the second or even third company looking around for who to partner with. Like I want to pick the best partner
Hmm.
and go and try to take this category and make sure we can build what we want to build. And we had spent enough time looking at what it would take to build drone software, even just the surface of it, to say, like, wow, that's a lot. Maybe that's not the right move. And so yeah, went to the drone deploy team, and we spent a couple weekends with them just like working together on stuff to see what the two teams would be like working together. And everything just fit. It was pretty. I was shocked actually at how easy it was for the two teams to work together. The products were obviously very complementary, but we found the cultures were too. And so that was ultimately what convinced me we should do this. I brought our leadership team over and the rest of our founders over to meet them, and everybody was like, "I think we should do this." So it was great. That was kind of what led to. It was driven by, yeah, this is what I think customers want, and then ultimately the two teams having a compatible cultures was the thing that sort of sealed the deal.
Hmm. So, from your point of view, there's like quite a few of these, like you mentioned, point solutions. reality capture solutions. Some of them I can mention, including Disperse, OpenSpace, BuildDots, QPix, right? So what's the current state in your assessment of the reality capture market in construction and perhaps beyond? And
I
why yeah, go
Go
on.
ahead, go ahead.
Yeah,
I didn't
and
want to interrupt.
why merging with the drone slash robotic solution would make sense for just a point solution that provides reality capture.
It's kind of, it kind of just piggybacks off the previous sort of, I suppose, insight of knowing that customers ultimately don't want to have so many different solutions that they're managing. This There's a real operational overhead cost to a company
But
having
each of them
so
is
many.
each of them is dealing with different kind of vertical or doing something different, or they are doing the same thing and they are kind of trying to win the same customer.
I think for the companies you mentioned, and there are many more, some are
Hmm.
only doing aerial capture and elements of that. Some are only doing some other small element over here. Um, there's a there's a ton of these companies, and the fact is, like, again, I think if in the future you can just look a little bit ahead and see that customers are not going to want. Our hypothesis is, I shouldn't project this as anything other than what we believe,
Hmm.
is that customers are not going to want 7 reality capture point solutions that they're managing in order to run and operate their business. I would use the same analogy of like project management software probably back in 2012, which is right when PlanGrid launched, and you had Procore, you had PlanGrid, FieldLens, FieldWire, you had so many, Rake, like there's a lot of different apps that were exploding onto the scene, and we went through this Cambrian explosion of field apps and project management apps. And then what you saw eventually was customers were going to their field people and realizing they had 25 apps on their iPad and their iPhone that they were using to do this one for checklists and this one for safety and this one for that. And they were like, stop, hold on. We're going to end up buying Procore or something similar, because we don't want to have 25 apps that do this stuff. We want a single platform that manages this information for us, and that creates huge operational efficiencies for a construction company when they don't have their people being trained on 10 different things. Right? When you go from project to project, it's really great when you can just use the same set of software tools and not have to relearn a bunch of new tools on every new job. Sometimes that's the right answer. And again, I think the reality capture category was nascent enough that you have to go through the explosion. You got to go through it. Tons of apps, there's options everywhere, and then you kind of have to let nature take its course and weed out the best ones, and those is where you're going to see the consolidation, and
Hmm.
and the rest will find a different home.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what I expect the same pattern to happen in our space.
Okay. And what's your vision for? There's an ambulance in the background, so just give it a sec.
Martin, I
That's
was
the
worried I was going to be the one with like dogs and children running around behind me and stuff, but that's
no,
okay. I'm glad you're the one with the audio interruption.
yeah, that's the craziness of central London. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to ask about what's your vision for reality capture solutions? Like right now, I would see that there is someone with a camera walking through the site and taking all of this data, and then this is being collected and sent somewhere else. And there is perhaps on the other side of the globe, maybe even there is someone assessing what the camera captured, and then provides further feedback in terms of program tracking or defect spotting, something like that. So, is this what is the future like in your view?
Yeah. I take this question as like, what is the vision for this category? And I think every single company
Much
in
better
it will
frame.
ultimately.
Yeah.
What is the vision for the category that every single company in it is ultimately going to need to drive towards? Um,
Hmm.
I the One of the things that I think the drone deploy team did a great job of is like memorializing this in sort of three value pillars, which we call unified, automated, intelligent.
Hmm.
And And we basically believe and have talked to enough customers for enough time about this now that first and foremost, what people want is one place for their data. They don't
Mhm.
want to have 7 different places where they've got data silos, where they have, different sources of reality capture data. As we talked about earlier, they want the data collected. Our customers are strapped for time and people. They do not want their people acting as data collectors. If you could have a robot out there collecting the data and
Mhm.
just capturing it for them as a first and automated process, that is like step two. So automated data capture on a schedule, getting very consistent information about what's happening on the job. I think slightly different from what you mentioned. I don't know that it would be someone across the other side of the world evaluating that information. Our vision is much more like AI agents. Let's call it a quality agent, a safety agent, a progress agent
Mhm.
that are taking that, call it your visual twin, your digital twin, every single day. And as soon as that data is available, that first level of assessment is just being done by an agent.
Mhm.
And it's looking at quality, it's looking at safety. It has a job, and it's there to give superpowers to the teams that actually do that work for the project team, right? So if I'm on the team focused on quality, this thing is just serving me the things I should really be looking at, because like I'm a human, I have 2 eyeballs. The AI agents have a million, right? And there's a million eyeballs running around looking at this job site. Some of them are focused on safety, some of them are focused on quality, some of them are focused on progress. And so I think our vision is those 3 things kind of working in concert.
Okay. How far is the vision from the reality as we are now right now?
Elements of it are being delivered right now. For example, a docked drone is the best example I could see in construction that is actually happening today, where we are seeing customers collect. They're going from a weekly flight with a person on a set of joysticks
Mhm.
to every single day, maybe 3 times a day. I'm getting information about what is happening on this data center that I'm building, because that is how fast this job is moving. And that's the type of information I want. And so the automated piece of it is happening right now in dock drones. I think it's just very like, I think it's very undersold. And it is occasionally challenged by the fact that we hear lots of things about China and drones and the availability of hardware. The fact is, the folks that are buying these things are seeing massive value from what they're collecting. So that part of the vision is it's here, it's happening. Robots on the ground, that's taken a little bit longer.
Mm.
And we're still seeing that there's a cost and autonomy and capability with ground robots that is like very close. But even that element of it, I will say is very rapidly changing. And again, we see massive cost drops from 100K to 10 or 15K. Those sorts of price drops in a robot that's capable of navigating a job site are also going to drive, I think, the next wave of like what's possible with robotics. So I think that's here today. On
Mhm.
the automation and agent side, I think we're now delivering a first version of that vision as well with what we call safety AI, which is doing the work of taking your data every single day. You don't need to tell it what to do or give it specific directions. It's already got its directions, which is it's trying to find 95% of the OSHA risks on your job. And now we've actually let you customize that, because everybody seems to have their own sort of different versions of safety protocols that they want to follow, which is totally understandable.
Mhm.
And so I would say like elements of it are being delivered now. I think the full robotic part is going to be the biggest unlock in the end, where like I think right now we're at this place where robots, you can't just stick an LLM on a robot. It doesn't use that as its like foundational model for understanding the world. There are really smart folks building, call it the spatial foundational model, that's going to help robots understand the world and navigate with it. Hard to know who's going to win that battle and what will happen there, but when that is available, and the thousands of robots that are out there that are kind of dumb right now suddenly
Mhm.
become very smart and capable within the world, that's going to be an amazing time to be alive in the world of reality capture,
I can see.
because you're just going to see so much innovation happening so quickly.
Mhm. What about what's preventing this like a progress to be faster? And I'm not trying to say that it's not like fast enough progress in any shape or form, but is it? I'm just curious. Is it more software challenge or hardware challenge or the junction of those two? What's your thoughts here?
I think it's actually on the if you see all three of these things as connected, you're much more likely to do more things if you have data every day collected by a robot. Um, you're still creating a different challenge when you do that. And I guess I'm going to try to simply answer your question and say it's the hardware, and
Mm,
that's probably the availability of like lower cost, call it 20K or less hardware to autonomously capture a job site. I think if there's ubiquitous hardware, I would also add restrictions to that. Like
mm,
for example, with a dock drone, you got to get a waiver to go fly that thing with like fully autonomously. You have to get a beyond visual line of sight waiver. In the US, that is not a dead simple process. It takes time, it takes money, it might take lawyers.
mm,
And so when you think about what the current administration over here is trying to do, I believe, which is remove some of these regulations, that could also be a really big unlock.
mm.
Is not having a remote pilot have to stand there and watch the drone fly and let people, actually autonomously go collect data, without having to go through the FAA to get a waiver. Is That's also a big unlock too.
Since you mentioned some numbers and the collapse of the cost from 100K to 15, 20K, I need to ask it. So 100,000, I guess, dollars you meant. Is it a cost right now or of a drone or of the device, or is it to lease it or for a month or a year or how? Tell us a little bit more. And you said it collapsed to 20, 25K as well. So that's very interesting. What was the
I'm
reasons?
thinking more of the ground robotics side of this. The drones, the cost of drones, I don't think is the prohibitive part. It might be more the regulation around pilots' licenses and visual line of sight. I think that might be the bigger challenge. I'm more referring to the ground robots, where you have call it $100,000. I've heard a lot more for a Boston Dynamics spot, which every single one of our customers has tried, tested, used, attempted to roll out, and none of them have scaled, and for various reasons. And now what we're seeing is a unitree robot that is, call it 12 to $20,000 depending on tariffs and other things, and that price point starts to become really interesting, because it's now the way our customers see this is, can I just get a human? If I can get a human who has a real brain and can go
Mm,
out and actually do things on my project, I'm going to do that.
mhm,
If I can afford to do that, because that person could do a lot more than walk around collecting data. But if the cost of that goes well below or is significantly less than my human cost, I would rather the robot collect the data and the humans do things that only they can do.
mhm,
And so I think that's, to me, I saw something very similar in the laser scanning world back when I worked at Faro. Laser scanners were $100,000. Very, very small group of people would buy $100,000 piece of equipment to go laser scan stuff. As soon as it was 40, the floodgates opened, and you had a completely different buyer, because the price made sense for their
mhm,
business. And I think we're going to see something similar with robotics.
mhm. How long do we have to wait?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I have no idea. I if you had asked the DroneDeploy team this, they would have said drone in a box will be here in 2 years, probably 7 years ago. I don't know. Like,
Mhm,
it's so hard to know,
mhm,
because, and look, and the other thing that would have been extremely hard to predict, even 3 years ago, I would have been the fact that you're going to have these language models and vision and multimodal vision models that can make robots way smarter. Like that, the AI is actually also the massive unlock for the robots. And like I did not see that coming.
mhm,
I did not know that we would have that type of capability. So it's very hard to know. Um, the acceleration of it, us guessing where that threshold is probably a silly game to play, but it feels like it's close.
mhm,
Is what I'll say. My guess is, if you have to build a foundational model for a robot that's like purpose built for robotics to understand the physical world around them, I don't know how close we are to that. We might be a few years away. I don't know.
mhm. Have you got any thoughts on companies which are not directly targeting construction as yet? I would say the example of Tesla, for example, and their models and vision models, how they are obviously trying to figure out what's on the way for their car. Are they are they not having more like engineering hours done in the space of reality capture than all of the companies within construction who are tackling it combined? Any thoughts
Yes.
here?
Oh, yes. And this is maybe the most exciting part of all this for us is that there are companies like that who are investing billions of dollars into the functionality of robotics, whether it's through Grok or through I think it's Optimus, which is their humanoid robot. Um, that's actually super exciting for us because it gives me hope that there's more than just a couple companies and little tiny context startups that are actually working on this, because I think there's a decent chance that it's one of those companies that comes in with a like functional, capable robot, or at least the brains of one
Hmm.
that we could then attach to other smaller, cheaper, more affordable robots. Um, and and so yeah, no, I think we look at what they're doing, and I'm sure they look at construction and think, wow, what a great place for a robot. There's dull, dirty, dangerous work being done that where humans get hurt. They sometimes, die. Like this
Hmm.
is it's dangerous work, and it's really hard on your body.
Yeah,
And by the way, we have a labor shortage. So, like if you add it all up, we're a really good target for
everything
one of these guys.
converges. Yeah,
Totally, totally.
yeah. On your customers, what is your view on the ideal customer persona? Is it a general contractor or subcontractor, or is it perhaps an owner who wants to see if the two others, general contractor or contractor, are doing what they are supposed to do? And is there a clash here as well between those personas here?
That's such a good question. I love that. It's all of the above. Our ideal customer profile, I would say, we have been historically very focused on general contractors, and and that we will continue to be. Um, we've also seen a bunch of pull from subcontractors and owners, and I think at the end of the day, each of these company types has a different reason for wanting this data to be theirs
Hmm.
and to manage it and to assess it in their way. Like if I'm a subcontractor and I'm assessing progress, that means something different to me than it does the general contractor.
Hmm.
And so I'm going to want a way of assessing that data for myself. If I'm an owner, I similarly have a vested interest of a different nature in making sure that
Yes.
this project is on track, it's on schedule, we're not falling behind, and exactly what I think is happening on the job site based on the PDF report that I get. When now, like, I don't have to look at a spreadsheet. I can just pop into DroneDeploy and literally see with my eyeballs what is happening.
Hmm.
And so I think all of these parties have been interested in both the safety and progress agents that are either in market or coming to market. And I actually think, to your point, like, is there friction? Not, I don't see that with the best builders. The best builders have great relationships with the owner. There's a super like open, transparent thing happening there.
Hmm.
Um, it tends to be the not great ones that are like that have a fear of like people might see things and hold it against me. And look, I will
Hmm.
also say I have heard about some absolutely nightmare owners who will take data and absolutely beat their contractors over the head with it and make their life miserable. And look, there's bad actors everywhere,
Hmm.
but you the default mode is like mostly good actors acting from the same set of unbiased data that just tells us what's happening.
Hmm.
Like, let's just all agree what is happening on the site. And even as a subcontractor, if I want to know if that work over there is ready for me, that's really valuable for me, right? Like if I know that this group, the electrician's done over here and I can go do my thing in this room because this area is ready for me to go, great. Like that's really valuable for both the GC managing the flow of work and the trade who's trying to manage their labor and make sure they get people to the right spot on the job.
Hmm.
Um, it's kind of a win for everybody in our view.
Mm. How maybe that's too geeky and too deep questions, but I will see and I will try. So, how do you see the ideal scenario for um, visibility of the current progress of works, um, and then how this visibility is transferred into different stakeholders? I mean, different contractors, electricians, plumbers, what's the ideal way? Because I can imagine if there's data is collected and there is some sort of report, every different stakeholders will have different language in which
Yeah,
they are operating. What's the ideal
totally.
way of spreading this data across all of the stakeholders?
Yep. I'll start with the owners just from the top because that's probably the simplest, right? What they're thinking about is I need this asset operational because every day that it's not is costing me money. And so they have this idea in their head of a delivery date. They're very focused on when am I getting this thing? And of course they want quality and of course they want safety and of course they want to make sure the progress is in the right direction. And they'll look at all three of those things to make sure that they're going to get a thing, their asset is delivered on the date they expected it to be and it's running so they can make money. And so the granularity of a report there, let's call it on progress, is I'm looking at a schedule. I'm looking at what progress is telling me in terms of like each area, for example, has, the total of each area is 80% done for mechanical, 60% done for electrical, like
Mhm.
a very high level roll up of is this roughly where I think it is each area progressing in the way that I think it is. The GC will be looking at something very similar, but a level down from that, they'll be looking at like how are the trades actually flowing through the project? Are the trades actually moving in are they working the areas I think, and are they flowing through the job the way I designed? And so the best superintendents at any good GC know that how that work is flowing through the job is going to affect their schedule, their quality, and their safety.
Mhm.
Because when people are working in the right spot at the right time, you're getting better quality, less rework, safer work. But when that's blown up and not going well, that's just like another indicator for them that maybe things are not going in the right direction on that job. That's kind of what I think we see the GCs largely looking at. Um, there is always a through line here of like quantity of work and how much I'm billing. You could just sort of put billing to the side for a minute and say that's a really interesting, important thing that is helps everybody make sure like, am I charging the right amount for this? And if I'm the bank or the owner, am I paying the right amount for the work that's going out? But I think that's not necessarily going to help the job get built faster, better, higher quality on time, which is what the owner wants.
Mhm.
And then if you go down to the trades, what they care about is production. So if you think of GCs as caring about progress, the trades really care about production, which is like quantities and labor. They want to know specifically how much quantity of stuff and then how much labor they had to buy to put in that quantity of stuff. And and so they think about this at the most granular level, and it's probably the hardest because like we built a product called Smart Track that delivered production tracking for drywall and framing specifically for that trade. And you have
Mm.
to get really high level of detail to like truly get to what each individual trade needs. Um, and so we haven't gone down specifically that road. I think from a trade perspective, the other thing that's really valuable is just knowing what work is ready where.
Mhm.
So if I'm the plumber and I know what areas of the building are ready for me and I can see that on a map, that's really valuable information for me. It's going to help me get better production from my crews by knowing that information. It's not helping me measure my production, but it might make my production better by
Mhm.
having that information.
Hey listeners, I want to take a quick break to remind you about the Bricks and Bytes newsletter. If you're interested in learning about the technology shaping the future of construction, you won't want to miss the valuable insights we share each week. To get this exclusive content delivered straight to your inbox, head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today. Link is in the show notes. Back to the show.
Mhm. So you mentioned smart track. So my next kind of point was to touch on customization of these solutions in a more sense of a customer. That each of the customers, I guess, or each of your customers is slightly different. They have slightly different ways of doing things internally. So how do you customize for them? Is there any KPIs that they can assign or program within DroneDeploy software that spits only the data that they are interested in the way that they want to see them? And yeah, if you can say a little bit more about the smart track, the case study of this.
Yep. I'll start with how we're doing this actually today for safety AI.
Mhm.
For the agent that's doing that, just because that is actually happening right now. for example, if you load in the federal OSHA standards, Occupational Safety and Health Administration standards in the US, that's one data set it could pull from. The way you allow for customization of that is like you basically allow for people to ingest a custom version of that, a different set of documents into that model that is then going to go look for specifically those safety, call it elements or categories within your job. And so the short answer is you let the customer upload the set of things they care about. And that is how we're customizing things for safety AI. For progress, that is still a like ongoing journey for us where we're basically trying to make sure we can track every single trade that matters. And we haven't yet got to a place where there's a high level of customization, but you could easily see the pattern of that being customers picking and choosing which trades they want to they want to track, what matters to them, specifically what scopes of work, and being able to get only the data information that they want. So that's kind of how I would approach that. And you're right, because I think maybe the most annoying thing for builders is tools like this that then just produce everything.
Yeah,
I just show you.
generic data, like don't. Mhm.
I'm gonna send you a notification for everyone else's work that you don't care about.
Yeah.
And so I think we will be, and we've already got that feedback from building safety AI. We've listened, we're shipping stuff that is far more customizable and where you can take all the noise and say, I don't care about that. Just give me
Mhm.
the stuff I really care about. And so I would say that's how we're going to approach it for progress as well. And Smart Track, yeah, I mean Smart Track for I guess for folks, most of the folks on this that probably won't know what that is. Back at Struction Site, we built a product called Smart Track that was very focused on production tracking, so quantities of installed work for drywall and framing specifically as a trade. We never expanded outside of that scope. Um, and yeah, it's just really interesting learnings. Like we began that journey looking for a way to track progress for GCs, and we ended up with a production tracking tool for one specific trade.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, like, what's most interesting to share about Smart Track?
I mean, what is super interesting is this still the case that reality capture companies should be kind of specializing within trades, perhaps, because what it gives them, it gives them a great product for a customer which is very well defined. Um, but what I don't know actually is the technology right now allowing to skip this customization of the products and go for slightly broader reality capture solution, which gives also great results, but much more blended and combined rather than solely focusing on particular traits?
Yeah, I think the answer to that question will depend on who you're asking. I would say for our business,
Mhm.
if most of our customers were in the trades, which they are not, we have
Mhm.
lots of trade contractors, but that's not the vast majority of our business. Then building something for the trades or a particular trade might make a lot of sense, and that might be the way to go. For us, building something that tackles all scopes of work across the projects, which is of interest to both the general contractors and the owners, is what makes the most sense.
Mhm.
And so I would say that's the direction we've pursued, which is again, and it's not yet clear what level of granularity each trade will need. I think our experience with Smart Track tells us that if you want to do, for example, drywall and framing, and you need to be able to see a corner bead on the edge of a wall, like that sort of stuff is um, I do think requires a different level of technology you got to build, or maybe you have to throw a bunch of humans at it. And I think that's what we learned with Smart Track is the technology several years ago was not capable of actually detecting in a fully automated way everything you need to detect for the trades.
Mhm.
And so what you end up with is a computer vision assisted, but mostly human powered product.
Mhm.
What that means for the customer is it's slow and expensive.
Mhm.
And people really struggled with that, right? Like they don't actually care how it's done, but if you have to charge a lot of money and it's a 24 to 48-hour turnaround time on a lot of projects, that's way too long.
Yeah, they employ
So let's
someone in house that they will do it the same day.
they might as well just hire an intern
Yeah.
to go walk the site and manually do it.
Mhm. Sure. What was the? I had a very good question. Where is it in my head? Um, okay, maybe let's go. Let's go into the lessons that you've learned in the each of the area of growing the business within Drone Deploy and previously. Um, So we chatted previously offline, and so three segments we can touch on right now: capital acquisition, talent acquisition, and resource allocation. So how about let's start from the talent. What are the three, four, five, whatever? How many keys to success in terms of hiring that you've
It
got?
sounds like a blog. It sounds like a blog post. 3 keys to success for hiring great people. Just to, yeah, the big picture for me, when I guess agreed to come on here was like, yeah, I wanted to. What value could I actually bring to your audience here? I think you have a lot of like founder CEOs and other folks that are maybe thinking about that journey. And I just thought about, yeah, I think the 3 jobs of a CEO are capital acquisition, talent
Hmm.
acquisition, resource allocation. If if you can do those 3 things really well, you're going to be very successful. They're very hard to do, all of them. And so yeah, like if I can help anybody learn a few things and take a few shortcuts along their journey and get there faster, that'd be great. On the talent acquisition side, I'll say I'll give credit where it's due. There's somebody turned me onto a book called like the A Player Method or something like that. I'm going to do a bad job of but it was basically a book about how to hire and recruit executives. And this is one of those things that every early stage founder has no idea what they're doing, and is as I was generally really bad at it. And you're going to make a bunch of mistakes, and how do you not make mistakes there? Um, the 3 things that I think about for that are, I think, first and foremost, interview plan and like training for your interview team. Everybody needs a job. Every single
Hmm.
person that is going to interview should be testing and assessing one very specific skill, and know that like that is, if they let this person through and that person is not good on that dimension, that's on you. And you got to spend a bunch of time training your team and making sure everybody knows what their role is in this process. And so I think that's sort of like baseline number one. Number two would just be like whiteboard sessions over take home assignments. I think we were sort of living in this world previously where we would say, cool, let's give this person a take home assignment and like see how they can come back and produce something for us. Um, and that generally is not very high value, especially today, because everybody's got Chat GPT. They
Yeah.
can all go on the internet now and just ask questions and produce an amazing report on whatever you want. So one of the things that we've got an incredible amount of signal from is bringing somebody in, giving them a very high level prompt, and saying, you share your screen, turn your screen on, just show us as you work through this. I just want to see how you work. And what you get is their first principles understanding of how to do their job,
Mm-hmm.
right? Do they just have the right instincts on how to do this? Or
Mm.
are they operating on someone else's playbook? And if they are, you see them like looking at their screen over here and trying to read their notes. Like,
Mm.
or you see the people that are really good, they just know it. They're just like, sure, let's do this. Let's build this campaign. Let's build this financial model, whatever it is they want to do. It just comes out of them. And you get this really amazing view into what they actually know instead of what they are regurgitating from someone else's experience. So I'd say that's number two, whiteboarding sessions over take home assignments. And then number three is just back channel references over actual references. Like everybody has a couple of friends that they knew at their last job that'll say nice things about them.
Mhm.
And there's no signal in that. There's just nothing.
It's a
And so
favor.
it's a favor. And you will get way more signal if you take the time to go find their boss or their boss's boss, obviously at a place where they don't currently work, and previously, and just reach out to those people and be very honest with them that I'm thinking about hiring this person. It's a really important role for me. If I screw this up, like it's really going to be painful. Here's some things I'm a little bit concerned about with this person, and put it back on them to push back on you and say, no, this person is amazing. They're very good at what they do. You'd be stupid not to hire them. Bang. That's how you know you got the right person.
That's the
If
signal.
they don't push, if they don't push back on you,
Mhm.
and they're like, no, you're right. those things are a concern, and you're right to be concerned about them. You also have your answer, and so I have found people when you're very vulnerable and just honest with people and tell them that hiring the right person here is really important. A lot of people will give you very real information about the person you're asking about. I
Uh-huh,
find, and I will, for example, do that for anybody that
uh-huh.
calls me and says, "Hey, I'd like to know about this person." I will do them the same favor and say, "Yeah, you're right. You should be worried about those things." And in most cases, that's not the case. Like that's very rare, but it has absolutely saved me on a couple of occasions for not hiring the wrong person by
Mhm.
just making that phone call and getting somebody to really tell me what they think about somebody before we hire them.
Speaking of hiring, what about probationary periods and these periods that you get to know each other with the employees? I've actually today in the morning I was listening to Kevin O'Leary podcast with Diary of a CEO, and Kevin was saying that he never employs people straight away, even after in the interviews. He gives 6 months a period that they are consultants to his companies, and then after that, once he see how they interact with the rest of the team, with other stakeholders, then there is a decision being made if they're right fit or not. How do you deal with the marriages that you take on once you're employing people?
I think um, that is really convenient, and it's amazing if you can do that.
Mm.
If the person you're hiring happens to have the work life flexibility and
That was actually
financial
about executives
financial
roles. Yeah.
stability for to do
Yeah.
that, that's wonderful. For most early stage startups, you do not have the luxury of going through a consultant's process and saying, "Hey, consult with us first." You should absolutely try to do that if you can, especially for a big executive hire.
Mhm.
And frankly, the really smart executives might even ask you to do that and say, "Hey, I don't want to join here
Mm.
until we do a little work together and I get a sense of what that's probably a really good signal that this person understands their value and is wanting to make sure there's a really good fit before they join a company. If you can do that, awesome, fantastic. That should be your first option. If you're unable to do that, you need to run a great process.
Mhm. Okay, so let's chat a little bit about capital acquisition. So there's this theme or trend within construction that there's more and more VC money pouring into startups. Is the VC money the best way to grow a business in construction?
It might be, depending on your business. It might not be. One really, I think, interesting learning for me that I would love to share with your audience here is there are other options. There's amazing VCs out there, and it's hard as a first time founder, especially to try to educate yourself on the different types of capital you might have access to as you grow your business, and also very few people are going to give you real advice about how to build your business to be a fit for those different types of capital. And
Mm,
so, like, yes, there's venture capital where you're trying to go for very, very fast growth, triple your business every single year for several years, and then double it from there. And then there's like growth equity, which is a different option that will value your business differently and will require you to build a much more efficient business, like a capital efficient business at the outset. um, and so, yeah, I think one thing I wish I knew is like, yeah, you do have a couple different options here. Yes, there are VCs. I think we all we all are fairly familiar with those. One thing I did not know is like, yeah, there's this pool of capital called growth equity, and they will kind of wait you out and make sure you can bootstrap your business to 3 to 5 million of ARR, and that's like their test. They want to see if you can actually bootstrap a real business and do it efficiently and not take tons of institutional money before you hit those milestones. And again, it's about 3 to 5 million ARR is kind of the level that I've seen. And if you do that, A, you've now built a really efficient, great business to begin with,
mhm,
and B, you now have access to a different type of money that is going to have lower expectations for growth and maybe some would say more realistic. And that might be for some businesses, especially ones in construction tech, a better fit where you're not going to triple your business every single year and then double it from there. And anything less than that is a failure, which is unfortunate, right? Because in construction, especially, if big projects take 2 years and your best people are cycling on and off every 2 years, that's a really long time for you to get the type of growth that you might need. in order to justify, in order to be a triple, 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 double, double, double venture capital backed business.
Hmm.
Um, Everybody's story will be a little bit different, but I think there are probably many good businesses in contact that probably should have gone growth equity.
Hmm. I guess in the founders' heads, when they're thinking about how do they get some money, is it growth equity or venture capital? They would have to form their thesis on their product and how they will be making money from this product or service that they are providing. So yeah, I think it's just interesting to think about it that they have to engineer the product so that our service initially and then follow this engineering so that they will go for a certain outcome. And I learned yesterday that Palantir even started from a consultancy, and it's kind of providing consulting service as well right now. But
Yep.
I think it's a great way to bootstrap perhaps a company initially, so that there is a real business there, and in the darkest times you can hang on these on this business that is not kind of fueled by the VC perhaps. Yeah.
Yep. And again, to be clear, there's some very, very amazing, incredible early stage venture folks that are amazing partners. Most founders won't get access to them. And if you can't, and most won't, you should, yeah, I would encourage people to try really, really hard to build a business that can sustain you without outside capital for as long as you possibly can. I think in most cases you're going to end up doing some sort of friends and family round, because getting some of those early things built, it's getting easier every day, but it's still, some of that stuff still costs money. And again, this isn't like broad advice for everybody. Some companies and some products, you absolutely should just go straight for venture,
Mhm.
and that's the right call.
What's your way to get into these hidden VCs, which are who are great but difficult to access? Like how what's your tips here?
I don't want to like lie to the audience and say there's some amazing tip. We went through this process and worked our buns off trying to, network and meet people. And ultimately, the only tip I could give you is the only thing that worked for us was getting into an accelerator in
Hmm.
the Bay Area.
So being
And so
seen
for us,
by some other people, by the fact
it,
that you
it
participate in the. Mhm.
exactly everything in the investment community is about signal.
Mm.
And getting into an accelerator is just a signal that you're in the top 1% of companies who wanted to get in. And so now it's much easier for them to put a little bit of money behind you. This is not really a problem as a like second or third time founder. It's really a first time founder problem when no one knows you, you have no track record. And look, if you're not a PhD from Stanford that is building, doing something incredible there, and they can underwrite you based on that,
Mhm.
it's really hard to back up a lot of founders, especially in construction tech, who are just like, you know, you don't have that massive track record in a lot of cases. I'm seeing more and more like repeat founders come into the space, which is great, right? Because they've learned a few things. They're a little better at building companies. But yeah, I other than get into an accelerator, advising people to try to network their way into great VC relationships is like, that just seems like a huge waste of time.
Mhm.
And it's tough. And I would say don't bother. I would say focus all of your energy on building an amazing business, and the best investors will find you.
Brilliant. Everything investment community is just signal. Matt Daly. I'm going to remember that quote. I think there is something in it. Okay, and third one you mentioned resource allocation.
Yeah, resource allocation. This is actually we learned some really good things at Struction Site, and actually, frankly, I'll give the DroneDeploy team a lot of credit. This is something that they are excellent at,
Mhm.
which is thinking about how to deploy resources across the company. And I would say, yeah, for us, the learning with Smart Track was, I think a lot of early stage companies are always thinking about like when's the right time to add this new product we're thinking about, right? You have this core product, it's working, customers like it. You have your sort of core ideal customer profile that it is working for. And I would say, like, as I reflect on one of these sort of accidents for us and something that I would ultimately categorize as a mistake, is deviating from our ICP of large general contractors. And it wasn't on purpose in order to go end up building this smart track product, which was very focused on trade contractors. And the reason it was, what we got right was that customers want automated progress tracking data from their reality capture. That part was absolutely true then. It still is true today. What we didn't get right was building a very granular trade contractor level product, one trade at a time. Because as an early stage company, growth is everything. Like you've got to grow or you're dead.
Hmm.
And you also don't want it to slow down. You want it to get faster. You don't want it to slow down. And so we definitely did not accelerate ourselves by then building a product that was only a fit for a segment of the market that didn't know us. And so we had a couple of really, really big names at the top of the drywall and framing world say, hey, if you guys build this, we will pay you lots of money.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went for that.
Mm-hmm.
We built the product, and ultimately it was. But then you pick up the phone to go call these customers, and like they have no idea who you are. It's like starting a new company when you decide to move into a different segment. And so what I would say to early stage founders is like really, really question if something you're going to do at a very early stage is going to take you out of your core ICP into a different segment of the market. I would really question if that's the right decision to maintain your growth. And for us, it ultimately wasn't. We sunset the product because it was a combination of low margin, expensive, and slow, which is like every other progress tracking solution we still see today. Still the case with every other product we see out there. And it was a segment of the market that we were not experts in and not delivering the most value for. And so we said, okay, let's put that on the shelf and come back to it later when we think it makes sense to. But yeah, like resource allocation, I would say. So how do you do it right? That's what we did wrong. is go away from your ICP and build something for a different segment of the market too early. The right way to do it, and again, I've learned a lot from the DroneDeploy team here. Is like, yeah, just grab 10 to 20% of your resources in R&D and cap it at that, and let them go experiment with this new thing. And then to sort of test yourself for product market fit, don't allow the founders to sell it. See if you can get an actual sales rep to go sell that thing. But the word you're looking for here, the thing you're looking for is repeatability. You're looking for the ability of a standalone sales rep to go and repeat that sale over and over again. And you're looking for customers to buy a little and then come back and buy more and more because they're like, okay, this is it. I like this thing a lot. It works great. So you're looking for both of those types of repeatability. If you're not seeing that for a sustained period of time, putting more than one or two reps on it, or even one, let's say you have only one rep, more than 20% of their time is on this new thing, that's probably a mistake. And you're probably sacrificing growth somewhere else. So I think thinking of your experiments as these 10 to 20% investments across both R&D and go to market is a really smart way to make sure you're not over rotating on something that isn't ready yet.
Great. I've heard in the past, and actually it definitely helped me in the business, that 80% of your revenue should be focused on from your core business, should be coming from your core business. And then 20% can be recycled into crazy things that you think might work, but there's no validation yet. And I think, yeah, it's a good proportion. What is the right moment once you have this product and you know your customer buys it? What is the right moment to segue into the other area or to provide another product? How do you know that it is the right moment?
I think this is one of the most challenging things to get right at all, just in building companies and building products. But I think the right way to do this is to slowly ramp yourself into that thing just becoming part of the core, right? So it's like it starts off in this 20% world over here, and you're trying your best to allocate resources to that in a way that is very limited. And then as it's proving itself and as it becomes more and more repeatable, you sort of migrate it slowly over to and say, okay, we had 2 reps on it this quarter, we're going to add 2 more the next quarter. And as long as that continues to go well, it just becomes part of the core. Now it's probably a good time to think about your next adventure. You might already be doing some experimenting that is leading you towards your next adventure, but you don't want to go too crazy dumping your resources into 7 new adventures
Mhm.
if you can only bring 1 or 2 in at a time.
Mhm. When you are explaining this, there's three words that are on my head: land and expand situation. So maybe that's a good segue for us to talk about marketing for a little bit. So you said there's 20 of not of you, but of you and 19 other folks dealing with marketing in the business. So what's the day to day like? What are they focused on? How do you guys work? And what are you focused on right now?
What what are we focused on? Well, there's a couple things. This is gosh, it's July. The fall is coming up, so there's about to be a boatload of trade shows and events, including ours. So we have our user conference called Horizons coming up in Newport Beach this fall in October. That's a huge focus for us right now, and so we're spending a lot of time on that. Um, we I would say like, yeah, it's events. We're going to be going to the Procore Championship, which is like a invite only executive event that's up here in Napa Valley at a golf tournament. And so like we just have a lot of events that are on the horizon that are a big focus of ours. Product launches, we got a lot of products that we're launching this fall, and um, I that's probably the thing I'm most excited about. Is we talk a lot about um, AI agents. It's agentic AI, things that actually do work in a semi-autonomous way and have goals, deliver value. I see a lot of that coming from our team in the second half of the year. So I'm very very focused on what are these new products, how do we bring them to market in a way that makes sense. Um, and yeah, I think those are probably the like the events we're going to, the campaigns we're running, and the products that we're launching are our top priorities right now.
Mhm. What's the best way for Drone Deploy to get new customers?
The best way for us to get new customers is through existing customers.
Mhm.
60% of our new logo ARR comes from word of mouth.
Mhm.
And so this is the de facto, and that number is growing.
Which is
So like
funny because these people should be competing with themselves. They shouldn't be recommending good companies.
it it's one of those like the products like ours have this natural virality to them because you need to share the data with other stakeholders on the job in order to get the maximum value from it.
Mm.
And so if you just collect
Network
data
effect, I
and
call it.
then no one else
Yeah.
sees it, that's not very valuable. If you
Mhm.
collect data and you share it with lots of other stakeholders, this is how we acquire most owners. This is how we acquire most trade contractors is I'm on a project. I've been invited to drone deploy. I'm thinking, wow, this is great. Why are you using this? That is generally how we acquire customers. That is our number one source of new logo business is um, word of mouth and people who have actually left a job and are going to a new job.
Mhm. Okay. Matt, tell me a little bit about, so in the recent or current actually AI wave, how did reality capture change and how is it changing and evolving? If you can give some maybe background, what was not possible, let's say 4 years ago, what is possible now, and like purely thanks to AI, yeah, and how do you see it evolving?
Yep. The Maybe just to go back to the smart track example, that was the clearest example for us of what was possible, call it even 2 years ago versus today being dramatically different. And, 2 years ago, in what I would call computer vision assisted, human powered production tracking, you could do object detection, image segmentation, object detection, but the computer was not smart enough to understand like the interactions of what it was seeing, right? And the difference, and so therefore you needed to have a human go in and status everything and check boxes and highlight drawings and do all of the manual things. And the difference now is because you have these multimodal reasoning models that can really like think through and actually when you give it the right prompts, it can go through and actually do the job. Now you're seeing what we are going to see this fall is the emergence of what we call like real AI, which is like it's software now,
Mhm.
and the software is capable of actually delivering something at the speed and cost of software. And that's all
Mm.
customers are going to really care about.
Mhm.
They're not going to care how it's done. They're just going to care that it doesn't cost me as much as what I might need to pay today, and that it's fast. And so I think that's probably the most exciting change is like multimodal reasoning models that with the right engineering can deliver the answers that we used to get with a click farm full of humans trying to manually status things. I want to be realistic and say I don't think the two approaches are equal. A
Mhm.
human can still detect things in an image and understand things that the AI is like not quite there yet.
Because of
But
the context, yeah?
that gap has become incredibly small.
Mhm.
Uh,
That's super
and
exciting to me, personally.
it is honestly
Mm.
like this is a such a phenomenal time to be building products in reality capture because man, we've been collecting this data for years and our customers have been asking us for years. I just want answers. I don't
Mhm.
want to look at a mountain of photos. I
Mhm.
want the answers.
Mhm.
And we're like finally getting close to that point where we can like really meaningfully deliver that in a software based way.
Mhm. So it's coming, you said, end of this year.
Yeah. Put put a stamp on it. It's coming.
Very good. Okay. How about charging? So let me ask you this. In the era of AI and more automation, is construction software going to be cheaper or more expensive? Maybe let's start here.
Is construction software going to be cheaper or more expensive? Gosh, I have no idea how to answer that question. I think some of it's going to be way cheaper. I think some of it will probably cost something similar to what it costs today. But I think actually, if you follow the trend of just technology generally being deflationary,
Mhm.
the same and I'm actually giving you an example of that. A a a production tracking or progress tracking tool today, we see being charged at a basis point in some cases, maybe half a basis point. I'm going to pay 500K on a $100 million job or something like that. And so you see really really big numbers. I think what we're seeing and we're expecting to see in this next phase is to deflate the cost of that by call it 2 to 3x. So maybe cut it in half.
Mhm.
And it might be less. Like I don't know.
Mhm.
And it might get cheaper over time. So actually, I think a lot of things you'll expect the cost of these things to go down.
Mhm.
Generally, will the cost go up or down of software? I think what will happen is the trend of spending more money on software, I do believe will continue because we'll continue to find ways that software automates things for us
Gives
that,
outcomes, perhaps.
yeah,
Yeah.
like exactly. And so I think that overall spend will go up. I think the like unit cost of what we're delivering per unit will go down.
Mhm.
As technology gets better, that's what it does. It deflates the actual unit cost.
Great answer. Thanks for that. And how do you guys charge currently? You don't have to talk about numbers, but what's the model of charging?
We we have absorbed so much complexity for ourselves here at DroneDeploy in order to make our offerings flexible for
Mhm.
customers. And so we have a per seat model, we have a site model, we have an annual construction value model.
Mhm.
So the answer will it depends. It's like we try to match the model for the customer depending on
Mm.
what they need. And so like one thing that was very simple back at Struction Site was it was all general contractors. I could do everything based on construction volume, just like, frankly, we did just kind of follow the Procore model because that road had been paved. And that
People
was
don't like
simple.
it though, I think. No?
I totally, some people, it really turns them off. We could have an entire podcast on this. And in fact, I would love to hop on with like a couple of practitioners and just talk through this because
Uh-huh.
every time I do, I'm like, show me a better plan
Hmm.
because
Well, people say you pay as much as you use. So based on the data that you use now in the AI times, right? How much you're using,
that,
that's
that
going to.
Yeah, outcome based and usage based. Whatever, but everybody says they want usage based, but what they actually want is consistency. They want to know what
Mm-hmm.
they're going to pay. When you're on a usage model and you have wild usage patterns across your company,
Yeah.
as a general contractor with my 3% margin, I can't afford to be having these wild fluctuations in how much I pay for things. I am
Mm-hmm.
naturally going to say, I need consistency in a price. I don't need a usage model is a great way to let someone get started and charge them lots of money for something.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as those usage patterns get out of control, as a business, that's very hard for me to predict my costs, and that's not a good place for me to be on as a low margin business,
Mm-hmm.
in a tight margin business, I should say. And like, so I usage outcomes. I think there will be versions of that exist, but mostly what I see from our customers, once they've had a chance to prove the value of something, is they want consistency. They want to know what they're going to pay,
Mhm.
and that they're not going to get some massive bill that blows their margin on a job because they overused, right? Like I think the other problem with usage too, the other challenge with it, I don't want to say it's a problem, is if you're punishing people for using it, you're
Mhm.
like, we want you to use it. Get the value from the thing. You get the
Mhm.
maximum value
Love
from
it.
the thing.
Yeah.
And like if I'm gonna nickel and dime you every time you do that, you're sort of just shooting yourself right in the foot too. So again, like there's a whole separate podcast we could probably do about pricing and how to do that. I would love to have a more open dialogue with,
Mm.
the industry about this topic, because it does trigger a lot of people. And usually I find that if I sit down with someone and I say, can I just talk you through how we've been down this road for 7, 8 years now. I've taken lots of lumps on pricing and why it works this way and that way. At the end of the day, most of what I find is our customers are looking for something consistent and they just want to believe they're getting a good price.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Uh,
really like that one. Hmm. With this usage spikes, it's also how does customer know that the spike is caused by conscious decisions and the right decisions rather than just kind of some sort of mistake. And yeah, I also I'm learning and shaping my point of view here, but there's something off here.
yeah,
Um,
totally. There is something there, and I also could understand this idea that when you say I don't want to be charged based on my revenue because I want that number to go up. And we're like,
yes.
yes, and they want it to go up independent of the tools they're using. And that part I completely understand. I will also just admit I still haven't found a like vastly better model, because every model has its problems. You want to do square footage, that's got its problems as well. If you want to do usage, as we just talked about, there are problems there. Um, we're living in a world of imperfect pricing models.
Yes, I agree. Okay. Um, Matt, what else should I ask you? What did I miss?
Um, I don't know. I think we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at, I don't, I think we covered everything, man. I don't know. Like it's really, yeah. What else do you want to dive deep on? What else could I share with you that would be valuable and useful to know, and um, that you think your folks want to hear about?
Yeah. No, I think we went through most of these. Yeah. Okay, let's wrap it. And I actually there's a good point on the charging. Maybe we will organize a show about charging because this is also my passion subject a little bit. So yeah, we'll get you there and we'll chat about who else can come in. Okay, Matt. So tell us where people can find out more about you and DroneDeploy.
About me. LinkedIn, probably like everybody else. I'm on LinkedIn. I don't spend too much time on other platforms, but that is the one place where like we'll go and invest some time. So yeah, go add me on LinkedIn and send me a note. I love talking to people about this stuff. And yeah, DroneDeploy, just dronedeploy.com. Best place to go learn about us. And if you want to get to know us as a company, go to an event, go meet us in person. Really like meeting people in person. We try to do as many events as we can so that we can go do that and build some real connections in real life. And if you want to get to know us, that's a great way to do it.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Awesome.